Welcome back. This is lesson number 2 in your journey into Tinkercad. So the first lesson we just looked at the workplane a little bit, some of the features on the left hand side, how to create a new workplane or a new project, how to rename it. Today we're going to look at a few more things. We're going to open up the workplane that we created last lesson. You might already have it open. And if you're back for the second lesson, thank you for coming back as well. So our task today is we're going to open up the workplane. We're going to drag in some shapes. We're going to group those shapes and resize those shapes. And then once we have done that, we'll ungroup them so you can see how that works as well. And that will be our whole lesson. Grouping, ungrouping, resizing, putting shapes in. Job done. That'll be lesson 2. A nice quick one and hopefully a nice easy one for you as well, which will help you continue on your Tinkercad journey. So let's get started. Here we are back in Tinkercad again, and you can see that in my workspace here I have the testing the waters one that I used last lesson. So I'm going to open that back up again, clicking on Tinker this, which means I want to get back into it and start working. I want to tinker it. All right, so here's my work plane. All the settings should still be the same. I'm just going to move my work plane in a little bit. And the first thing I said we're going to do is we're going to get some shapes. Now over the side here, you can see we've got a range of basic shapes. And if you click on more, you can keep going down. There's heaps of pre-made shapes. You also have the search function here to search for a shape that you may particularly want to see if it's available in anything. If you click the drop down here, you have tons of options, tons of pre-made stuff. If you just think I can't be bothered designing this part, or you want to repurpose a part, for example, you might go to shape generators and then there's tons of stuff in here. Note that you have a featured and an all tab. All right, so featured doesn't give you everything, all does. So if I click on all, I can just keep clicking more shapes, and you can see there's tons and tons. I can keep going down, 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 and I could choose hardware. So there's nuts, bolts, threads I can use if I wanted to. And if I wanted a particular one, I just click on the search icon and go thread, and press enter. And you can see there, I can use these to create threads in things. I've done this with reasonable success, so it's pretty handy. There's lots of things today, but if I click the cross here to close that down, it takes me back, and I'm going to drop down and choose basic shapes again. You can add things to your favorites. You'll see I've got stuff here. If you find that you're using a shape a lot, it might be the letter A, you can click that little star there, which will favorite it. And then when you go to here, you'll see in your favorites, that's where it'll appear, the ones that are starred. Now, these are ones that I've gone through and just gone, oh, that's handy. And I've locked it away in my favorites so I don't have to search for miles later on. Just something to be aware of when you're creating stuff. If you find something that you really like, favorite it, and then you won't have to search for it next time. Back to basic shapes. All right, now, one thing you need to know is these grey things. When I ask my students, what do these do? They go, oh, they've got lines on them. Oh, they're grey, they're a window. When they're greyed, they are representing a hole. All right, so this is how you make holes in Tinkercad. And it's not as obvious as you would think. I tried this on my own last year and nearly did me in. Let's drag a box onto our workplane and a cylinder onto our workplane. Nice and easy, like so. Now you'll see with any shape, if I click on this shape, I get a drop-down menu here where I can make all these changes, length, width, height. I can also turn it into a hole by clicking that, and it's now a hole, or I can click it into a solid like that. The shortcuts for this, when I have a shape selected, I can press the key H, turns it into a hole, or I can press the key S, turns it into a solid. So if I can't be bothered going to the menu, H for hole, S for solid. All right, you'll also notice up here, I've got a lock. So this will come in handy later on if you want to assign kids work or you don't want them to be able to change it. You can just hit the padlock, and that means it's locked for editing. I can't move it. I can't resize it. I can't do anything with it. It is there. All right. So if there's a particular shape you don't want to be moved around the work plane, you want it to stay completely fixed, lock it. All right. I don't want that today. This one here is the hide selected, so I can just disappear it. And then, if I'm working on a whole heap of stuff and I don't want to see it for the short term, and then I can just click on the light bulb again and it brings it back. So you can hide and unhide shapes. All right, so with this box, it comes as a standard 20 by 20, and you have the option of radius. Now, radius is good if you want to round things off a little bit, but you can go stupidly far, and it's no longer a box, it's a sphere. All right, so quite often if you want to soften things up, a radius of sort of 1 to 2 is good on a box. It makes it nice and round. Now your steps, that's the important one. If we make our steps low, you'll see how now that's more of a chamfer than a round. If I do it, the more steps I have, the rounder Tinkercad will make it. You can still, if I'm zooming in, you can still see the steps here, but it makes it appear round. As I reduce the amount of steps, it's the amount of steps it takes to go around that curve, and obviously less steps, more chunky, more steps, smooth and round. All right, so they are, I'm going to zoom that back out. They are your options for that. You can change the length and the width here. I prefer not to use this, I do it manually, but you can if you wish. Clicking the up arrow to get rid of this menu, or deselecting the shape gets rid of it as well. Same here with the cylinder. The cylinder, you can see, if you look closely, you can see the steps on this. Tinkercad doesn't create a perfectly round, so that's where we increase our steps to make it round. So once again, in the menu here, I have options, sides, segments. Drag them to the max to make it as round as you can make it, and you'll struggle to see that the segments are there. Now the bevel, I'm just going to drag this to the side a bit so you can see it. The bevel is just what it says. It gives you that rounded, softer edge. And if you want something that's round and soft, you can do that. But be aware, once you make adjustments here like this and you deselect it, when you click on it again, oh, no, that's all right. That's fine. Usually, or occasionally, the option to change those things disappears. Once you drag things too far, they might not give you the option to change. So just be aware of that. Now, anytime I want to make changes, I can undo them with the undo key. I can just keep stepping back until all the changes I've made are there, etc. So they're my two shapes, and I've dragged them in and I've made them softer. I'm going to make this one softer. I'm going to put a little bevel on it. I'm going to select this number here and make it 1, just to soften those edges so it's not harsh and sharp. All right, now I did say to you that we're going to learn how to group and ungroup. Now there's several different ways to group things. Firstly, I can just do a left click and drag and select both those shapes. Even though they are not touching, I can then go up to union group, which locks them like so, and does this. Now they move as one shape. In this case, bundle group would have done the same thing. So if I now want to fix this and go, nah, I don't want them grouped, you can see up here I've got the little push them apart ungroup and the shortcut of Control plus Shift plus G, or you can just ungroup them here and they now become two individually functioning shapes. All right. The bundle group and the union group are very handy for when you want something to be a whole but not be a whole. And we'll discuss that a little bit later. So I'm going to now put these two shapes together like so. Just going to sort of push them in. I'm just left clicking and dragging there. And I'm going to roll around and have a look and go, yeah, it looks all right. We're not going to use the align tools today. That'll be next. But I've sort of put them together. I'm going to left click and drag, and then I'm going to hit union group like so. And now these shapes will become one item. All right, you can see I haven't joined it perfectly or anything like that, but it is, in essence, joined. It's one shape and it looks all right. Now, the thing we haven't covered yet is we haven't resized. So once again, I want to resize, so I can either resize these as a single unit, or I can ungroup them, deselect, drag the shape out, and then I can resize them as independent units. All right, so if I click on the cylinder for a start, and any one of the corner tabs will give me my length and width dimensions, long and wide. So if I left click and select, I can then go to here, click on it. I see a lot of kids at this point, they'll hit backspace to delete it and they type. You don't need to hit backspace, you can just type your dimensions. So I'm going to go 23, and then if I deselect, you can see it's changed that to be 23, left this at 20. I can click in here and go 25. It's no longer round. And if I want to move over to here, I can press tab, 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 tab. So tab flicks me from one to the other, saves me clicking. I can change this one and then hit tab and change back to this one. All right, so tab, I'm going to change it to 25 so that it's now round. And you can see it's now round. You might be going, all right, what are the little black things for? The little black things are so you can just grab them and drag in one direction. If you drag the corner ones, it drags, you can still do the same, but it drags two dimensions at the same time. This one just drags one dimension. All right, so this will drag one, this will drag two. All right, so if you want to change two directions or dimensions at the same time, you can just drag, or you can just change your dimensions manually by punching the numbers in there. This one at the top, I'm going to move this menu out of the way, drag things to the center. This one at the top is your height. All right, so if I click on this dot, it now gives me the option to change it to something else, 34, and you can see I've now changed the height of my shape. So the corner dots drag two dimensions, the black dots will change the shape in one dimension only, whichever one you've chosen, and the top one changes your height. All right, you might be going, well, what about the little black cone? This is why I said a second ago down here in our settings, I said shadows, leave shadows on. All right, when we had a look at that, I said leave the shadows on. This is why. With this little cone, I'm going to drag this here, with this little cone, if I lift this, it is height above your work plane or below. I can push or pull this shape up or down. So I'm going to pull it up, and as I do, you can see here, my height is 3 millimeters above the work plane. And you can also tell because I've got a shadow. It's really handy when you're doing when students are doing their work and they go, oh, something's not right, I can't get this to work, and you can look at it and go, yeah, it's not on the work plane. You need to put it onto the work plane. Now, if they don't know how far off the work plane it is, the shortcut for fixing that is just hitting the key D, and it'll drop it to the work plane. All right, so the cone pushes, pulls, you can push it below the work plane and above. All right, so you can do both. So even if it's below the work plane like so, if I hit the key D, it brings it back to the surface of the existing work plane. All right, so that gives us our reshape, our push-pull, our group, our ungroup, and that is everything we needed to do for this lesson. So I hope, bringing myself to the front again, I hope that lesson 2 was good for you. It's amazing for me. And the next thing we'll do is we'll start to use the align tool and the group tool, and we'll create a hole, because creating holes is pretty important, especially when you come to embossing and engraving text. All right, so that's lesson 2. I hope you enjoyed it, and we will move on from here.